You're never too good to go back to the basics, to work on your motion technique, to work on your hurdle length, to work on your punch angles. Like, you're never too big for that. This book was the book that I read when I decided I needed to completely reinvent the identity of my medium forward team. Character triumphs over talent. And man, if I haven't seen this one play out time after time as a coach. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Cheer Biz Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Cotton, and today we are going to be doing a little bit of an abnormal episode. I know I missed an episode on Saturday. I am so sorry. I vowed to you I would not miss any episodes this summer, and I did miss that one. It was a number of things going on as we ended our camp season. I did not have my recording equipment with me. I was able to get the episode with Matt Becker, which was a very long one together. It was our move out day, and I just did not have time to get one done. So I apologize for not getting you your Saturday episode. I've actually received multiple messages from people who are like, when you don't release an episode, it like messes up my day because I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to listen to while I'm driving to work. So I apologize, heartfelt apology, but we are going to make up for it today. Before we get into the episode, please make sure you're in our groups, Cheer Gym Owners and All-Star Cheer Coaches and Owners on Facebook, that you've been to our website, nextgenowners.com. And last but not least, you have looked into our Cheer Biz Accelerator if you're a gym owner. The first Cheer Biz Accelerator we're hosting at my gym at Oregon Dream Teams, October, I believe, 8th and 9th. It's the first one. It's going to be absolutely phenomenal event. You're going to get to come to my gym. You're going to get to see the inner workings of what we do. We're going to have classes. Think of everything we normally do at a conference from the business perspective, but getting to see behind the scenes in my gym and getting to do a deep dive very focused on your gym for a spotlight session. We're going to spotlight each of the gyms that is there and really drill down and identify some of the things that they have going on in their business that they can do better. And I'm super excited about these events, and I'm really excited to kick it off at my gym. So please make sure you get registered. Also, you'll help me not look silly, because when I told the rest of the team that we could do this, and I was like, you guys, we're going to sell these out. Everyone's going to want to do it. So don't make me look silly and get registered for me, okay? You're going to do me a favor. All right, so today, like I said, we're going to do something really abnormal. So I've talked about a book a lot, and that book is Legacy. I'm holding it in my hand for those of you who aren't watching on YouTube. It is Legacy, and it is written by James Kerr. And it is a book about a rugby team, the winningest rugby team in all of history. The name of the team is the All Blacks from New Zealand. And that's because they wear an all black uniform. And I love this book. And this is a book that we read with my entire staff a few years ago. I think we're going to read it again this year because I was just opening it up for this podcast episode. And I think this is going to be a number of episodes. I'm going to break down some of my big things, some of the key quotes in the book, things that really stand out to me, things that I love, and how they apply to my life as a business owner or my life as a cheer coach, or how I've implemented some of these things with my teams. And I've talked about this book because this book was the book that I read when I decided I needed to completely reinvent the identity of my medium forward team. And I read this book in about 5 hours on the flight back from Worlds because I'd been told there was a lot of cultural problems. And I came in with a plan to change everything. And I did. And it took about 2 years, but that realization and the value of that change finally came to true fruition this last summer, or this last year, when we won Summit, D2 Summit, not D1 Summit, when we won the D2 Summit. And now, actually, as I was perusing this, I was like, oh, I need to read this again, because when I get into chapter 2 on a later episode, you'll understand why. But the very first chapter is the one that I'm going to dive into today. And the first chapter is the chapter on character. And at the beginning of each chapter, they have kind of a core tenet. And that core tenet of this chapter is sweep the sheds. Never be too big to do the small things that need to be done. Now, this is a lesson that I think transcends teams. It transcends business owners. I mean, it is almost a rule for life, right? You should never be too important, too self-important to do the things that need to be done in that moment. Oftentimes I hear well, that's not my job, or I shouldn't have to do that. And you may be right. You may not be a person who should be doing that thing, but you shouldn't be above it. You just might not be the right person to be doing it because there's more important things for you to be doing at that time. But if there's nothing more important for you to do at that time, then you shouldn't be above that thing. And I talked about this similar concept when I did my wash the dishes episode, why I wash the dishes. But this episode, we're diving into sweeping the sheds. And what they talk about in this book is that the All Blacks team goes out and they win this game, this amazing game. They play this game. There's guys that set records, national records. They become the all-time winningest players and all of these other things. And then after the game is done and after all the fans have left and the media is gone, the team captains, the people who just set records, are in the locker room and they're sweeping up the dirt and the grime and the bloody towels and the garbage and the tape, and they're sweeping, they call their locker room the shed. They're sweeping the shed. They're not having anyone else do it. And even though they are the people who make that team successful, even though they're the best players on the team, they're still the ones sweeping the sheds because they're never too big to do the small things that need to be done. And in that moment, it's the sheds that need to be swept. I found that to be such a amazing concept. And I introduced it to my team. And I think I'm going to do this again. I'm going to read this book. I did it a few years ago where I read the book to the team. I think I'm going to do it again because I think there are some really important lessons in this book. And I may even start it tonight. Previously, when I read it to the team, I just read chapters and recorded them similar to this. And I may do the same thing, but it's a really, really amazing experience to read a book with your team and discuss things about it. That stands out to me. When I introduced it to them that week, we had our showcase and those athletes were the ones, putting away the chairs and putting out the chairs. And when I was like, hey, I didn't ask you guys to do that, they were like, we got to sweep the sheds, coach. And I was like, yes, you're listening. Now, maybe you're not fully getting it, but you're listening. It's starting to set in. And I think even as leaders, as gym owners, as managers, like this is something that you always need to keep in mind, that you're never too big to do the thing that needs to be done. So yes, are you the right person to be vacuuming the floor? No, you're not. But sometimes that it doesn't mean that it's beneath you. Are you the person that needs to be answering the phone and making the sales call? No, not necessarily, but it doesn't mean that it's beneath you. You're not too big for that thing. I think this also really translates to teams, right? You get to that world's team or the best team in the gym, and you're never too good to do the things that got you there. You're never too good to go back to the basics, to work on your motion technique, to work on your hurdle length, to work on your punch angles. Like you're never too big for that. You've never gotten too good to do the things that need to be done and work on the basics. Another quote in this chapter is, successful leaders balance pride with humility, absolute pride in performance, total humility before the magnitude of the task. Man, if that doesn't speak to what leadership needs to be, you need to have complete and total pride in the way you're going to carry out your duties, in the way you're going to lead, in the way you're going to hold yourself accountable to lead your people and to lead your team. But you also have to have complete humility and knowing that you have no idea what you're actually doing and how huge the task is and how great that responsibility is, and be so prideful in that you are the one tasked with doing that thing. It is such a big deal to be in that position of leadership, and good leaders truly balance that pride with that humility. I think that humility also goes back to being willing to do the small things that need to be done, even if they would be seen by others as beneath them. As a leader, nothing is beneath you, especially if it puts you down on the level of your people and helping understand what it is that they're doing on a day-to-day basis. As a police officer, there's an administrative portion of a police department. And that admin team, you have your lieutenants and your captains and your chief, and they're not on the road, but they're the ones making the decisions about the way the road works. And they're not actively engaged in going out and patrolling. They're not the ones who are going out and making arrests and dealing with people who are violent and doing those kind of things. And there can oftentimes become a contentious relationship between the road officers and the administrative officers, the people who are out doing the work versus the people who are telling you how to do the work. And I think the same thing can occur in a cheer gym, especially if you're an owner who doesn't actively coach, which this is not a dig. I'm just telling you that it is possible to do because you're not getting down on their level and understanding what it is that they do on the daily basis. So I think that being willing to do those things, being willing to take that class when someone else is sick and coach that class, or coach that team because the coaches are out, or maybe even the coaches want to go on vacation and you're like, hey, you know what? You haven't had a vacation. I got you. I'll cover your stuff, and doing them that favor as well as getting down on their level and seeing what it is that they're dealing with. Another quote from the chapter is, the challenge is to always improve, to always get better, even when you are the best, especially when you are the best. Now, this is one that I particularly love for my level 4 team right now, who is kind of going through a little bit of an identity crisis. It's been really unique because we've never been in this position before. We have always been in the position of the bridesmaid and not the bride, where we're coming back from D2 Summit and we have a chip on our shoulder and we didn't quite win, or we didn't quite execute, or we didn't even make it to finals for a couple of years. And, how do we reinvent? How do we pivot? How do we go and come back harder and more aggressively and more motivated and more focused? But now we came back the bride and we came back with the win. And now we have to learn what is our identity now that we have the championship, and it's different and we've never been there before. And understanding that the challenge is to always improve and always get better, even when you are the best or were the best, and especially when you are the best. Like, that is the challenge. How do we continue to motivate ourselves and motivate our team and motivate our coaches and motivate our athletes to continue to strive to be the best? Because you listening to this might understand this. Like, we decided, well, not decided, we have the numbers, we're going D1 this year. So we're now a D1 gym, which means I told my kids, you haven't won anything in D1. So slow your roll. Let's go into this knowing that we're now the underdog and we're back to being the underdog, and we don't need to reinvent ourselves in any way because we're used to being in that position. But you have to always be improving. And this even includes as a gym owner. You may think that you've got everything dialed in. You may think you're at your peak, you know it all, you're set, you're ready. And the challenge is to continue developing and continue improving, because it's very easy to look at it and go, man, we're crushing it. We've got the kids we need. We've got the enrollment we need. We're doing great. And the next thing you know, you back off and you aren't always improving and aren't trying to become even better than you are now, even though you may be the best in your area. And suddenly things change. And the last thing you want to be doing is responding when you're in the negative. You don't want to have to respond when now a new threat appears and a new gym opens, and now they get to position themselves as the better option because you haven't been doing anything to improve yourself. So you want to always be getting better even when you are the best. Next quote that I love: a collection of talented individuals without personal discipline will ultimately and inevitably fail. Character triumphs over talent. And man, if I haven't seen this one play out time after time as a coach, I have had teams that should have been arguably just dominant all season long. They were so talented. They had all of the skills, but they lacked the character. They lacked the focus and the intentionality of athletes that truly are wanting to be champions. And I tell you, I will take an athlete of incredible character, generally speaking, over an athlete who is incredibly talented without the character. Now, obviously my preference is to have both, but you need those two components together to truly be successful. Character will always trump talent. Always. The work ethic, the discipline, the character, those will always take the cake. They will always be the ultimate deciding factor. So I would take a team of great character over a team of great talent any day of the week. The next quote is, our values decide our character decides our value. So this goes to conversations that Jeff Benson has had many times, and you probably heard me talk about, right? You need to know what your core values are. You need to know what your values are as a gym. You need to know what your values are as a team, because those are going to be the things that dictate your athlete's character, dictate your program's character. And then your character is going to decide what your true value is to a team, to an organization, to the athletes that you service. So you need to know what those values are so you can adequately deliver for them. The next quote is, what is my job on the planet? What is it that needs doing, that I know something about, that probably won't happen unless I take responsibility for it? Now, this is a greater just question in life, right? This is something that someone goes, okay, why am I here? What is it that I know? What is it that I can do that is going to better the world? Because ultimately, what people are generally looking for is purpose. And you, as a gym, as a business, you have the ability to give people purpose. I have a number of staff that work for me. I have tons of athletes that I coach, and I believe, and I know because they've told me that what they do inside these walls or what they do within my companies gives them purpose. It gives them motivation. It is the reason that they get out of bed in the morning. And so knowing what is your role on this planet, what is it that you do better than others that you can then deliver to people to help the world be a better place, like that is the ultimate thing that you need to answer. And it may be outside of your planet. It may just be in the little universe of your gym. If you're a coach listening to this, or you're an athlete listening to this, what is your role on this team? What is it that you do better than others that makes you a critical component? Or what is it you as a coach that do better than the others in the gym that can make you a critical component, can help you grow the gym and make the gym better, make the gym more productive? You got to think about these things and use those to guide your actions. A culture of asking and re-asking fundamental questions cuts away unhelpful beliefs in order to achieve clarity of execution. Humility allows us to ask a simple question: how can we do this better? I'm a big fan of asking questions and re-asking fundamental questions to get clarity on what we truly believe. I've done a lot of episodes on you need to ask why, not because we've always done it. You need to go back to those core beliefs. You need to keep asking those questions so you can better understand the reasons that you're doing the things that you're doing. It is absolutely critical. It achieves that clarity of execution. Humility is always going to allow us to ask the simple question: how can we do this better? I just love that. If you're humble, then saying, how can we do this better? How can we improve? It's not an insult. It's actually a positive action, and it shouldn't be taken negatively. Humility does not mean weakness, but it's opposite. Leaders with mana, which is a word in the New Zealand Aboriginal language, not Aboriginal, but like the language of the island originally, understands the strength of humility. It allows them to connect with their deepest values and the wider world. And again, humility as a leader does not mean that you are weak. It doesn't mean that you don't have confidence or that you don't believe in yourself. It means that you're humble enough to know that you are a fallible creature. It means that you know that you don't have it all figured out, that you can ask questions, that you can make mistakes, and it actually makes you a better leader. It makes you more strong. It makes you an overall greater coach, athlete, business owner, and person. So remember, as we leave the episode, the big takeaway from this is to sweep the sheds, to never be too big to do the small things that need to be done. All right, everyone, I hope you enjoyed this dive into Chapter 1 of Legacy by James Kerr. I will be doing additional episodes on other chapters as well. I'm definitely going to talk about Chapter 2. It's one of my favorite chapters in this book, although there's a number of really, really good ones. I will have even more takeaways when we dive into Chapter 2, because Chapter 1 was a little bit more pie in the sky mindset ideas, and Chapter 2 is going to really talk about how to make change within your organization, within your team, within your leadership style. It's a really, really amazing chapter that I cannot wait to dive into with you. So as always, I hope you enjoyed it, and we will catch you on the next episode.